Expectation minus reality equals frustration. And that frustration number is very high after this game against Everton. It's the Newcastle United Digest. Let's go, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Newcastle United Digest, the channel giving you Toon content in bite-sized chunks. My name is Adam Snyder, and in this episode, I will be having a special guest join me to talk about the Everton game. And that special guest is someone you might be familiar with if you remember my old podcast, the Toon Army podcast. And if you're not familiar with that podcast, let me introduce you. This man is from Toon Army St. Louis. He is the founder of that group. He is also a big beer and bourbon aficionado, and he has shaped my taste of both of those very much to this day. So welcome out, Tony Egizi. How you doing, Tony?
Hello.
How's everything going with you?
It's going well.
I'm sure we could have been better off after that game yesterday.
For sure.
So, Tony, oh my gosh. So welcome out. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot to discuss about this game, just a lot of frustration.
Yes.
Normally, I talk about key moments in both the first and second half, but there weren't a whole lot of key moments in either half. So let's talk about the big ones for the game combined. And I think we have to start with the Everton disallowed goal, with the cross into De Curry and Cher missing his guy, and thankfully VAR bailed us out.
Yeah. At first and live, I thought he was onside. Clearly wasn't. But yeah, Shar had just kind of switched off there for a moment.
He seems to be doing that a lot this season.
Well, you could say that about a lot of the players. So
I've noticed him
single him out, but yeah.
I've noticed him. I noticed him switch off a bit, and he's one of his biggest tendencies I've noticed is that he ball watches quite a bit. And it's not just this season thing, but I've caught him doing it a lot, both with Newcastle and in the Euros over the summer as well.
Yeah. I think he's always he's that guy who wants to be positive, and he's always looking to spring forward if the ball gets loose sometimes. So I always think that he's always looking for the next move forward sometimes, and that doesn't always happen because you still have to defend.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he is one of those guys that he kind of got mispositioned as a center back at one point and just kind of stuck with it just because that's where he got stuck.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall for the most part he does a good job, but I do think he does phase out of the game at times, especially on that particular play. But I also think that he likes to edge himself forward a little bit more than, say, Dan Burn. Because if you always notice who the last one back is, it's always Burn. It's not Shar.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, Cher. Except for last week when he gets involved in the high press for some reason.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, was that last week?
It was last week. Yeah, Burn, somehow Burn went forward to press.
Yeah, no. I saw Sharp pressing yesterday. I can't. And part of me, like, both games were really boring this week. It wasn't just the Everton game. The Wimbledon game wasn't much better. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, which one? I remember seeing Sharp press forward. It must have been against Everton.
Yeah, I think it was.
I don't think Burn played very much in the Tuesday game.
No, I don't think he did. I think it was Sharon Kraft played in center on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right. So, anyway, sorry to bring that one back up. I was just my brain was like, who played which game? Anyway.
Yeah, I get you. When the games are boring, they meld together.
100%.
And this one had a whole lot of boredom in it. I think one of the biggest things for me, like, I was expecting a whole lot more from this team. You have, one of the things I mentioned in my preview before this game, you have Everton, who does leak a lot of goals, and they leave a lot of passing channels open. This is one of those games you expected somebody like a Tonali, like a Bruno, even a Joe Linton to find those seams to make those passes, or even a Jacob Murphy he's done a great job of being able to slot balls behind defenses and lead somebody on for an easy goal. And I just didn't see that happening this week.
Yeah. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? One area of the team does really well one week, next game, and the next week it's like, okay, that seems better, but then the rest of the team can't connect with it. That's kind of how the season's been.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like we, other than last week against Man City, we haven't really had a full team effort that was very cohesive with everybody else.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe this is the dumb American in me, but these Everton games seem to be borderline rivalry games at this point, coming from both sides. Supporters seem that way. Talk on the interwebs kind of feels that way. And then when their main goalkeeper is a Mackham, I'm sure that there's a lot of build up on both ways. And I think Everton played a much better game than probably would have otherwise. And
Yeah,
I think they played.
I think you're right.
I don't think they played that well, but I think adrenaline wise, they played well.
Yeah, it was, and I think you're right. The whole, Jordan Pickford being from Sunderland, and the extra adrenaline being added to Anthony Gordon returning back to Goodison Park for the final time, all of that, it definitely adds to a scrappier game than you're normally expecting to see between Newcastle and somebody further down the table like Everton.
I mean, in fairness, a lot of the games against them recently have been that way.
Yeah, definitely 100%.
And even the game that Isak did that run down the left side of the left channel and got that assist, I guess in the end was an assist. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. It was an assist to Murphy.
That's the only game that I feel like has been dominant for our team.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Loss or a draw, if I remember right. And I don't know. I don't have a great memory on that stuff, but any of the time we play them, but it's usually midweek. I think the last 2 seasons, most have been all midweek games anyway.
Yeah, you're right, and that especially going to Everton, it's been a midweek game. I think the most memorable of those up to recent memory has been when we were down 2-0 and scored 2 in injury time with Lejeune scoring 1.
Oh yeah, did he score both of them?
Oh no, that's right. He did score both of those. That's right.
Yeah. I didn't watch that game live, but I remember watching the highlights on that one. I was at work. Yeah.
That was hilarious to watch. The interesting thing about this game is that it almost seemed like Eddie Howe was a little bit desperate to get energy going, but I don't think he went about it the right way. He brought on Longstaff for Tonali, first off.
Well, we talk, so my feeling on taking Tonali off the field is, but
that's the Italian in you gets really pissed off every time that happens.
I thought the midfield was pretty decent. I think Bruno tried too hard.
That's definitely very true. I think when he puts that captain's arm on, Joe Linton had a very good game. I'll give you that.
I think Tonali had a similar game to typically with Longstaff, like not good moments, but mostly solid moments, but just a lot better than Longstaff.
Yeah, I was expecting to see a little bit more probing from Tonali behind Everton's defense, either as a pass or even making the run himself. I just didn't see a whole lot of that.
The one thing I noticed with Tonali was he was doing a good job of not letting all 3 midfielders commit forward at once, unless it was a fast break, you know what I mean, or there was a set piece. I felt like there was better balance to making sure that there was him or Bruno or someone was still back while the rest were going forward. I don't know if that was something they worked on during training or they've been working on, but it seemed very. If I'm picking that up, it's probably someone else has already seen it. But I felt like he did a good job of balancing that. So if someone went forward, he would hang back, or if Bruno hung back, then he was going forward. So I don't know.
Yeah. One thing I noticed, there was one play that Bruno had, I think it was pretty early on, and it was very similar to the I think it was the 3rd goal that we conceded against Fulham, where Bruno gets pinned in the corner and he doesn't have a whole lot of options to play out. So his only option really was to play the Hail Mary clearance out through the middle outside out. And I saw that, and I had flashbacks to that Fulham game, and thankfully he got out of it. But it seems like he almost gets to this point where he wants to play the hero, especially with that captain's armband on.
Yeah, I had a moment during the game where I was thinking, I understand why they wanted to give him the armband, but he just looks like he's trying too hard.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the other two subs that really had me scratching my head was bringing on Joe Willock for Jacob Murphy. I don't ever see Willock being a winger unless they did that to bring Joelinton up on the wing, and then bringing off Barnes for Almiron, which I don't understand at all because Miggy hasn't featured a whole lot, and the only time he really has was against Wimbledon, and he was pretty sad in that game too.
Yeah, so I have a love-hate relationship with Almiron. I think I'd much rather see him play right now than Murphy. I think that he offers more than a direct run. Murphy tends to run forward or run diagonal, but he's predictable.
Yeah,
And
I'll give
yes,
you that.
some of Miggy's runs are predictable. That's fine. But also when he does get the ball, he doesn't just necessarily run straight in a straight line somewhere. He has the ability to beat a player, get around him, find the next person. Murphy doesn't. He lacks that. Also think Miggy is better when he's getting back and playing defense because he's super tenacious and he's got a lot of energy. And I think we have probably needed some of that energy in some of the earlier games this season.
Do you think that this is the time where we see Miggy starting over Murphy going forward?
I think you have to consider it.
Yeah, I think you do
Just
too.
and not necessarily because Murphy's playing bad, but it just changes the style of what you're doing. I know as one person, that whole right side is different. It's like bringing on Trippier for Livermento. Like, yeah, Livermento is really good and he probably should be starting, but the team just looks better when Trippier's playing.
Yeah, I
And
think
just
so.
and I think to a degree we can all get mad about Mickey not having a right foot and it drives us all crazy. You know very well how I feel about it. However, it's one of those intangibles of what he can do with the ball and off the ball that I don't know that Murphy. They're completely different styles, and I think at some point with the way the season's been going, we're not great, we're not terrible. Something's got to change.
Yeah, I think adding that little bit extra dynamic that Miggy brings to the table, not only tracking back, but has a really good ability to.
Oh,
Whoa, that's a cat.
it's a cat.
That's a
He
cat.
found me. He found me. He didn't know I was down here, but he knows I'm here now. So if you give him a minute, he'll probably curl up in my lap. So
Yeah,
sorry.
it's okay. I think one of the things that would be considered one of the things to consider with Miggy is he does have the ability to play a give and go a little bit better and kind of create
Yeah,
space that way.
yeah.
And I think one of the things that he thrives off of is having it's like lines in hockey where you have that connection with everybody that's around him. So he kind of doesn't have that connection anymore. He had it with Bruno and Trippier last year, and I don't think he's had it as much this year just because he hasn't been playing as much.
Yeah, and I think the whole right side of the team has been different every week. You know, when you got Tonali didn't start until you had Longstaff starting, and then Tonali that changed, and then Trippier comes back into the team. And Livermento was there for the first few games, and it just the left side has been far more stable, if you will, and that used to be our weak
Yeah.
side. Now that's become our stronger side, and so I feel like the right side just there needs a change, and that doesn't mean in like 6 weeks, if Miggy keeps playing, we won't need to change it back up. And I think that, but I don't know if Howe has it in him to make those changes when they're needed. Like sometimes it feels like it's everyone sees it, but he doesn't do it right away, and then finally it feels like he's pushed into it.
Yeah, he doesn't. That he doesn't seem like he wants to make changes almost like he's a little bit stubborn and doesn't want to admit that he was wrong.
Sometimes it feels that way. I don't think it is that way, but sometimes
I
it
don't.
looks that way from our
Yeah,
perspective.
it definitely. The optics are that way, but I don't think that's the case. I would just like to see some stability on the right side because we just don't have it.
Yeah, I think bringing Trippier back in was the right move.
And then he got hurt, so who knows if he'll be back after the international break, or we'll be seeing Tino again.
True. Well, the good thing is Tino's off and Trippier's at home.
Yeah.
So,
well,
because Livermento's on the under 21s.
Yeah, he made it to the U21s. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think it starts there. I think that if we're going to have Trippier on the team, he needs to play. If you're going to take him off in the last, 20, 30 minutes, so be it. But I think he still seems to drive the team a bit more, whether it's leadership on the pitch or hopefully up that right side again. I'd like to see him work with Tonali more and see what happens. I don't know. Again, Murphy and Miggy are not what we want on the right, but knowing when to use them appropriately would be nice. It just feels like you just stick with someone, stick with someone, stick with someone, stick with someone. And we're not generating anything, especially without a striker right now.
Right.
At some point, you got to change it up.
Yeah. Speaking of not playing with a striker, what about Will Osula? We really haven't seen him a whole lot.
Yeah. I don't know. For people listening, Adam and I are in a group chat during the game, so we talk a lot during the games as well. So I remember saying in the group chat at one point, just bring Osula on and move Gordon out to the left. Bring Barnes off. Bring Miggy on. Try to bring it back to some normalcy. Put Gordon on the left. That's where he's comfortable.
Yeah, and he showed that when there's that one play where he kind of made that quick turn and went to the end line and didn't have anybody to get the ball to right in the center of the penalty area, which is something that he thrives in doing. Obviously, you have Isak in the game, and that's something that you would see as an obvious target, but you don't have Barnes cutting into to cover in that spot. You don't have anybody from midfield kind of crashing the goal on that. So you need that lightning rod in the middle to kind of anchor the attack. And with Wilson being out and Isak being out, I know he's not the most polished option, but having Osula even just as a holding forward is an option to kind of hold things up.
That's what I thought. I thought about 20 minutes on, it didn't look like we were going to get anywhere. Bring in a holding striker, having stretch them towards the goal, because Gordon doesn't do that. That's not the type of striker he is. He dropped back a lot to receive the ball, to turn and move forward. Same thing he does on the left. Just put him back on the left, put Osula up front. Try to spread them out and try to use the space. It's hard to use the space when Gordon's dropping back into, I don't know, even the midfield area to grab the ball, and he brings his defenders. And then there's a whole bunch of defenders. Multiple times that happened in the second half. I know. Right. And again, yes, Gordon was trying too hard, but he's out of position.
Yeah, I think he's trying to. I think he's doing his best to impress no matter where he plays, and it's not exactly an easy spot for him to be in. I don't think he exactly wants to be playing up the middle against Everton at Goodison Park when he's much more comfortable on the left-hand side.
Well, we don't play that type of system with that type of striker. We just don't. No. Yes, Isak will drop back, but he'll also stretch the field a lot more.
Yeah, he can hold and distribute a lot better than Gordon can, because Gordon's MO, no matter where he's playing, is get the ball, turn and march up the field.
Right. The one thing Gordon does do, I think, better, and this is just like splitting hairs here, he's really nice on the press when we do have the press going, because he's really good at the top of that point, really pressing hard. And I think Isak does a great job too. So this is like really splitting hairs here, but I think Gordon gets an edge in that area. But I just think he drops too much. He brought his defender into that space a whole lot. A lot of times he got fouled. He drew the foul, but that's like the worst place on the field to have a free kick. You're like in no man's land.
You can't really do anything with it. I think the other thing another point about Miggy coming on is that he's also great leading that press as well. Just that with that energy that he brings. We saw it in the Steve Bruce days where he'd come back and was just tenacious on defense. He's just as effective on the press going up top than he is coming back and playing a defense that way as well.
100%. I just think it's time to change it up. Again, this is nothing against Murphy. They're just like I said earlier, just different styles. It's just time to see something different and see if it starts to ignite the team a little bit better, get some of that passing that we were talking about earlier going that we're just not seeing a lot of.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, even though we had 2/3 of the ball on Saturday, we really didn't do a whole lot with it.
No.
So let's go ahead and start landing this plane. Let's go and talk about our overall ratings by position, and let's start with the goalkeeping. Tony, let's start with you. How would you rank Pope's play on Saturday?
From a area, I'd give him a 9. I think he was probably the best in that area of the pitch. He didn't do a lot, but when he had to, he did. I thought he was
Yeah,
better
I'll
with
give you that, and
the
I
ball
gave
at
him a
his.
9 out of 10 as well.
He did better with the ball at his feet this time, but I mean, they weren't pressing him hard, so he had more time to handle the ball and get the ball out.
Yeah,
I didn't think his distribution was
yeah, his
bad,
distribution was really good. Yeah,
so one of his better
I also
games.
give him a 9 out of 10. My only questionable play of his was in the first half where there's a ball that was a cross, and instead of catching it, he punched it to the edge of the penalty area.
Yeah.
And that's one of those concerning plays where if it's another team that we get punished on a volley from that position, and
Yeah.
it's Everton, so thankfully they weren't able to do anything about it.
True. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Not a goalkeeper, never was. So it's
Yeah,
like
I did play
sometimes
goalkeeper. I did play goalkeeper for a little bit. My sister played goalkeeper for a little bit, and I'm sure if we had David on, and he's learned a lot since his son has become a goalkeeper as well.
yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem when they punch it. It's just where you punch it to.
Yeah, it was decent. It was where you punched it to was decent, but not the greatest.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
otherwise, he had a good game, I thought.
yeah, agree. Let's move on to defense, and I'll go ahead and start with this one. I thought that we had a 7 out of 10 game, despite keeping a clean sheet. The disallowed goal that could have been a much worse situation. I think Cher missed his mark. He kind of fell asleep a little bit. And if someone keeps the Curry on side, that's 1-0 down early on.
Right. Yep. I don't disagree. I think that seems pretty accurate. Again, the switch with did Shipper come off injured? You say that
He did
earlier?
come off injured. Yeah, he did come off
No,
injured
I don't.
late on.
I don't think I noticed that. I think at that point I was cleaning the kitchen and watching the game at the same time. So I must have missed that. Hey,
Yeah,
busy Saturday. But yeah, I mean, even the last game that Trippier starting, Livramento coming on, it did change. Livramento had a lot more energy in his runs when he came in, going forward. Unfortunately, there's just no chemistry with Miggy. They don't play a whole lot, and the right side changed. Longstaff was on, so probably just got in the way somewhere. I don't know.
yeah, I agree with that. And I think the next thing we need to move on to is midfield. And Tony, I'm gonna let you go. This is where when we discuss this, we have a little bit of a differing opinion. So I'll go ahead and let you start.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they looked better as a unit. I think there are some individual performances that could have been better. Again, I think we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier with Bruno. I think Bruno has just overall for the season. Let's just hope he's ramping up to being the old Bruno, but he looks just a step off from what we know he can do. I think that he tries a little bit too hard sometimes when he's not playing great to try to make something happen. But I thought as a unit they played better. I thought Joe played a better game.
I'll give you
He was
that. Yeah.
struggling. I think Sonali came in. I mean, Sonali is just, he does very similar things to what Longstaff does. He's just way better at it. His passing was off though a little bit, but I mean, that's how they build chemistry. I feel like from that standpoint, it's probably the best those three have looked playing together. So I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think they all three played the previous game a little bit, not very long, but I don't know. I thought it was their best game. Now, overall, the rest of the team wasn't gelling, so it doesn't make them look their best because it is a team game in the end.
Okay. So where would you give him a ranking out of 10?
I don't know. What did I tell you beforehand? I think
You gave him an 8 out of 10.
an eight. I think this one was a little
Yeah.
higher. I think 8 out of
Yeah.
10.
I'm going to disagree with you a whole lot here.
Yeah,
I'm giving them a 6 out of 10 because last week I think I saw the Tonali, Jolinton, and Bruno play at their best. I think it's the best that I've seen the midfield play all season, and I was hoping to see them build off of that and kind of boss this game a lot more than they did. And I didn't see that. I didn't see them on the defensive side of things. I thought they were fine. Except for that one play I told you about with Bruno getting pinned in the corner and trying to play the hero and could have potentially coughed up another goal. But I thought that this is one of those instances where I think that they should have been turning the screws on Everton and kind of bringing them out a little bit more, but I didn't see them do that. Everton, up until this point, I noticed that they were leaving a lot of passing channels out to the wings open, and I didn't see them exploiting that as much as I was expecting them to. So I'm not sure if this is me having a lowered or having a high expectation for this game and it's not being met, or if I'm just missing that the improvements in the performance. But I thought that this was a game where they could have done a lot more, and I didn't see that. So that's why I give them a 6 out of 10.
that's fair.
And I think the forwards, we both agree on this one. This is a 5 out of 10 game for them. Oh, no, you gave him a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, as a whole, I thought Gordon was not great. Caveat that he's out of position. He's trying to do a lot, and obviously after he missed the penalty, which I don't think we've even talked about yet.
No, we didn't.
But I think that was I thought he was playing fine up until that point. He just got in his head, and I don't think he played great the rest of the game. I said earlier, he was dropping really deep to get the ball. Was that because of the midfield? I don't know. I have to go back and watch it, but
it could be. I think one of the things that Eddie Howe said, especially with the AFC Wimbledon game about Will Asula, is he was really frustrated with the midfield and the other forwards not getting him involved in the play more. So I think that could have been the case where the midfield just wasn't getting him involved as much for some reason, and that's why he was coming back so much. So that could be a part of it, and that's really not Anthony Gordon's game, is dropping back to try and receive the ball. Right. So the other reason why I gave him a 5 out of 10 is, aside from the penalty, they had 2 shots on goal. 2.
Yeah, that's fair.
And this is also, harping on the midfield as well, but everybody was kicking for field goals instead of goals. So many shots over the bar.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I bumped mine up because I was just impressed with Miggy. I actually thought he played really well when he came in. I think that he's about the only one I felt like created any decent chance in the second half when he came in.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
But I thought he looked better than he did Tuesday, for sure. But he hasn't played.
No, he hasn't. So hopefully he'll get more game time when he's out in Paraguay. But
I mean, Barnes was just kind of, when he was there, he had a couple good runs in the first half. I mean, once we missed the penalty, I think everyone just sort of,
the energy just dropped from the entire team.
Yep, not just Gordon.
Yeah, and then we was just on the set pieces. I think we both give him a 5 out of 10. Not only I think a lot of this has to do with the penalty kick, because other than that, I think we're pretty solid. Because everything else, everything else was solid. I mean, obviously we didn't concede anything, and we had the one shot that bounced off the Everton defender's calf. Was that off a set piece?
I don't recall. I'd have to go back and look.
I'd have to go back and watch, because I don't recall either. If it is, then that brings up to the 6 or 7 out of 10, because that's one of 3 shots on goal that just happened to be hit out the line.
Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm thinking about that. I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't either. So overall, I think that for me, it gives the team gets an overall score of 6.8 out of 10, and you get a 7 out of 10. I think overall, this is not one of Newcastle's greatest performances this season, and I know it seems like it's a rivalry game, but even that aside, this is a game we should have capitalized on, especially with how much Everton's been trending downward.
For sure. Agreed. It's definitely one of those, yay, we got a point, but it really does feel like, wow, that opportunity was, especially to win another game away from home, which we didn't do very well last year. So
yeah, yeah, capitalizing on any chance we can to take all 3 points away from home is vital, and it's definitely one of those missed opportunities.
Yep.
So,
Yes,
well,
sir.
awesome. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode of the Newcastle United Digest. I'm happy that we were able to make this work again, and hopefully we'll be able to do this more in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
It
Well,
was fun.
I'll go ahead.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course.